That was rad. This might be the coolest thing I've ever found in my entire life. This find totally made my day. Check that out. That is straight 80s trucker. And that's not any kind of a remake. I mean, this is legit, man. Look at this. Even the foam inside. Usually when you find these old hats, the foam is absolutely destroyed. But this thing is in, like, pristine condition. This is so cool. Cherry Coke is my favorite pop in the entire world. And this hat right here just makes me think right away of Stranger Things on Netflix right now. If you guys have not watched that, you need to go watch it right now. I love it. How appropriate that I should find that hat right now, too, because the vlog that you're going to watch today, well, I'll let you watch it, and you'll see why that hat makes perfect sense right now. Oh my god, it is seriously the coldies out here. I just had to stand out there getting gas. Of course, I'm complaining right now, and it's about to start snowing in about a month here. Today we are on vlog number 87. While we are in the 80s, I wanted to talk about the 80s. The 80s were an awesome time of my life. I was born in 1975. So by the time the 80s roll around, you know, I was 5 to 15 years old. And that is the time when you really absorb things, you see new things, everything is new to you. And in my lifetime, in the 80s, everything was so awesome. They came out with things like the GoBots, the Transformers, the Rubiks Cube, so many awesome little toys like that. All the cartoons, you know, He-Man and G.I. Joe and all that stuff. It was brand new. Everything was groundbreaking because everything was still being invented. I remember when I was in elementary school and I was just being introduced to music. I mean, of course I'd heard music plenty of times before, but I was being introduced to this idea of specific kinds of music that were like popular amongst my friends and my peers. And I remember one kid, his name was Chris, and he had a stack of cassette tapes. Yes, cassette tapes. Cassette tapes were the bomb back in the day. He had like Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet, Beastie Boys, License to Ill, David Lee Roth, Eat 'Em and Smile, Quiet Riot, just so many different tapes. And I wanted them so bad, but like my mom, you know, she wouldn't even let me listen to Bon Jovi because that was the devil's music. Now, I eventually got some of that stuff, but really, I didn't start buying it until later on in life, and I was like, man, I wanted that stuff when I was younger, I'm going to buy it now. So I have a stack of tapes at home that I always wanted back in the 80s that I wasn't really allowed to have. And we didn't really have money for that kind of stuff either. Okay, let's talk about some awesome 80s stuff. The first thing I want to show you... Wait, let's do this right. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk to you about is cassette tapes, music. I've got a handful of cassette tapes here from the 80s that I absolutely love, and believe it or not, my car has a cassette player. It has a CD player and a cassette player, so I can take these into the car with me. I'm only going to pick out a couple of these. I got a big stack of them here. I'm going to pick out a couple that have some meaning to them, rather than just showing you, you know, various cassette tapes. The first one, and probably the most important cassette tape to me from the 80s, from any time, is Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet. This cassette is the most awesome cassette ever, okay? I was in, like, probably 5th grade, maybe 6th grade, when they used to run the Bon Jovi commercials, and he would be on the stage, and he's singing, you know, Take My Hand, and he's reaching out like this, and to me, I was like, whoa, it was, like, so awesome. And everybody at school had Bon Jovi tapes, and I didn't, and my mom wouldn't let us listen to him because Bon Jovi was the devil, or something like that. So Bon Jovi, Slippery When Wet is the most important cassette tape ever in my life. Next is Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. And the reason this is so important to me is because this is probably the first cassette tape I remember getting. This and Lionel Richie, Dancing on a Ceiling. And I don't have that. Wait, yes I do. Holy crap. I didn't think I had it, but I have it. These were the very first 2 cassette tapes I ever got. That I remember. I mean, I may have had other ones, but I don't think so. I think it always was like, you know, the blank cassette tape that you put in, and then you try to catch the song as it starts on the radio and you record it. Those days are gone. Most of you probably don't even understand what I just said. But these 2, the first ones I ever owned myself. This one right here probably had the biggest impact on my soul, my heart. Like, and I'll tell you why. David Lee Roth, Eat 'Em and Smile. Look at that face. Look at that picture. That album cover is so incredible. And I had never been introduced to anything like that whatsoever. And I remember seeing a kid at school had this. I mentioned him earlier, that Chris. And it was like, it was just something I'd never seen before. So I didn't know whether I should be scared of it or what. But I just remember David Lee Roth, Eat 'Em and Smile. I have never forgotten about this album. And when I was buying this stuff myself again, you know, just reminiscing and the whole nostalgia thing, now that I could buy my own stuff, I had to buy Eat 'Em and Smile. So awesome. And I mean, yes, it's a good cassette, too. It's good music. I love it. Yankee Rose. Okay. Let's just do, well, let's do 3 more. It's really hard for me to choose which ones I want to show you guys, but I don't want this to last forever. Okay, Cinderella. And the only reason I say Cinderella is because this is just another one that sticks in my mind. Cinderella Night Songs sticks in my mind from that period of time. And it was just, you know, the big hair, the rock and roll. Just something brand new to me, you know? I didn't know whether to be scared of it or love it. B-52's Cosmic Thing. I love this cassette. I love this album. I remember we would go to the Skatery. That's our local roller skating rink. And they would play B-52s, man, and we would just fly around there. And there was this guy we called Liver Legs. He was really tall and thin. There would be like a big pile-up, a big crash, a big pile-up of people, and Liver Legs would come flying through there, jump up and spin around and flip and do all this stuff, land and keep going during the speed skating sessions. So that's why we called him Liver Legs. So his legs were always like, you've seen these people roller skate, and if you haven't, look them up on YouTube, man. I'm not saying Liver Legs is on there. I don't even know what his real name is. But Liver Legs. He's a legend. Okay. Last one I want to tell you about, oh crap. I can't pass up Quiet Riot. Quiet Riot, Mental Health. We were allowed to listen to records in our art class, and some kid brought Quiet Riot, Mental Health, and honestly, I think it was that same Chris kid. And this song right here, Come On Feel the Noise, it was always questionable what he said, and you know exactly what I'm talking about if you've ever listened to that song. So we were made to turn it off. Anyways, he also brought Genesis Invisible Touch. Okay, last one I'm going to tell you about. Besides White Lion and Guns N' Roses and Heart, is In Excess Kick. Now, the reason I want to tell you about this one is because it's close to me, because when I became a skater, if you watched my Skating in Massillon video, the skater diet that I did in Massillon, I told the whole story of how I came to Massillon and I was a nerd and then I became a skater. In Excess was the music that this kid at the hotel, you'll have to watch that vlog to understand this, In Excess was the music that kid told us about. And he said they were popular, so I was like, that's it, I'm listening to In Excess. And I loved it. I loved it. In Excess Kick. I just sold an In Excess concert shirt not too long ago for like 150 bucks on eBay. I wanted to keep it, but, you know, I wanted that money. Okay, so, there's the cassette tapes, there's the music. That's all I'm going to talk about when it comes to music, except for Madonna. I know, I'm crazy. The reason that Madonna pops in my head and Weird Al Yankovic is because I remember going to the library and borrowing Madonna and Weird Al Yankovic records, you know, among a lot of other ones. And I'm going to shut up about that right now and move on to movies. Okay, don't worry, the toys are coming, but let's get to the movies first. The first one I want to tell you about, and of course these are on VHS. I collect VHS tapes, all these tapes from my childhood that are so awesome. First one I want to tell you about is E.T. If you remember, I used to have an E.T. poster right up there on my wall. Original E.T. poster that was hanging in the theater. E.T. is the first movie that I remember seeing in the theater without my parents. Now, that would be without my parents, but with a babysitter. The babysitter that took us to see it first. And I don't know if this was the same at all cinemas or not, but I remember at the time they used to have like this green blob. Like if you mix water and food coloring and vegetable oil together, you'll see this green blob that will not mix with the water. That's what they used to have crawling across the screen. That's how you entertained yourself waiting for the movie to start. They didn't used to have like the Coca-Cola commercials and stuff like that, you know, Deluxe 247 and all that. Oh my God, look up Deluxe 247 if you don't know what I'm talking about. Hilarious. It's DELUX_247. Yes, I'm hyper. I love the 80s and I take Hydroxycut. E.T. I went with my babysitter. First movie I saw in the theater that I remember. Awesome. Now, my mom tells me that I saw Raggedy Ann and Andy and we all got sick because the floor was spinning or something like that, but I don't remember that. I remember E.T., E.T., E.T. The Goonies. Now, anybody who's watched my videos for a while probably has noticed, and I've probably mentioned before, that I'm a huge Goonies fan. In fact, this entire arm of tattoos is nothing but Goonies. I'll show you this one. Sloth, Baby Ruth. Okay. Back in a day, unless you had a lot of money, you did not own a VCR. Hence, you did not own videotapes. So we had to go to our local video rental store and rent a VCR. And we did this on special occasions because we didn't have a whole lot of money. But we would rent a VCR on like a birthday or something, and then each of us could choose a movie. I always chose The Goonies. Always. I love The Goonies. And I was introduced to it at that store. That and Explorers. I would always get The Goonies and Explorers, but I don't have Explorers. I need to find it. We also had a local library where you could rent movies from. And I mean, at the time you paid like, I don't know, $1 or something to rent them. And we would collect the quarters from around the house whenever we had a VCR, because we eventually did get one. And we would go over to the library and rent some movies. One of them I always got was The Karate Kid. And my sister used to get so mad at me because every time I came home, I said I had a movie, it was always The Karate Kid. Back to the Future. It was always Karate Kid and Back to the Future. Now, speaking of Karate Kid, this next movie sucks. But it holds a very tight spot in my heart. And that is Karate Kid Part 2. The reason it's so important to me is because Karate Kid 2 was the very first movie I ever saw in a theater by myself, without my parents, without my brother, my sister, friends, just by myself, 100%. It was in the local theater at Andover, and I went 2 nights in a row to see it, and I remember I got peanut butter cups when I watched it, and, you know, a little cup of pop, and it was just, I can watch this movie over and over and over. It sucks, but for that reason, it's very important to me, and I can watch it over and over and over. I need to find one of those drums, you know, little drum beat, whatever. The next is just a various group of movies that I loved when I was growing up, and when we had a VCR, we used to put in our blank tapes, because we would get a whole bunch. We'd get like a 5-pack of blank tapes, each of us, for Christmas, and then we could record whatever we wanted. And one of those was Commando. I don't know how many times I saw this movie. I watched it twice the other night. In fact, I just talked about it in one of my other vlogs. Beastmaster. Teen Wolf. Critters. Critters is awesome. Adventures in Babysitting. Mannequin. Enemy Mine. And one of them that I do not have on VHS, but I wish I did. Krull. And I even have the Krull comic book. And this isn't really the comic book. This is like the movie adaptation. You gotta see Krull if you haven't seen it. Okay, now I know I said that was it for the movies, but just like I did with the cassette tapes, I have a whole bunch of them sitting here, so I'm going to show you. Do you remember William Catt from the show Greatest American Hero, one of the greatest shows ever in the 80s? This movie is called House. This is sealed. I haven't even opened it yet, and I'm going to watch it tonight because I love it. House 2 sucks, but House 1 is totally awesome. Legend of Billie Jean. I've probably mentioned this to you guys before. One of my favorite movies of all times. Fortress. This is probably one that not a lot of people have heard of. Rachel Ward is in it, if you know who she is, and if you want to look it up online. Basically, she's a teacher who takes all these kids, and they get stuck up in the mountains being held hostage by these people, and they end up killing them all. It's a really awesome movie. It's one that we watched over and over and over when it was on HBO when I was growing up. One of my favorites. BMX Bandits. Yes, that's Nicole Kidman on there. BMX was the big thing in the 80s, you know, just as well as skateboarding was coming up, but BMX was the thing. We used to watch BMX Bandits every single time it come on HBO. I used to go around a neighborhood selling tickets to a BMX race that I swore we were going to have, and it never happened. I only wanted like 15 cents for the tickets, and I don't even know if I sold any. But my mom's best friend was so taken by that she used to call for years and years and years, and she'd call and ask about the BMX race. Now, I don't have a whole lot of toys from the 80s. I love them, and I buy them every once in a while. I find them at the thrift stores, or I buy them on eBay, but I'm a reseller. I'm a seller on eBay. So when I find this stuff, I'm like, I don't know, man, it's really cool, but I could make some money, and a lot of times I end up selling it. But I'll show you what I do have. We're going to start out with something that's not necessarily a toy, but is one of the most awesome things to ever come out of the 80s. Look at this stack of Garbage Pail Kids. Look them up online and just check some of them out. I had my best friend come over from the town that we used to live in, and he introduced me to them, and we didn't have much money, but I got a few of them. I probably had a stack about this tall back then, and kids in school were trading them, and it was all over the news about how bad they were and how they were getting banned in schools because that's all the kids cared about and everything. But I love Garbage Pail Kids. Eventually, I just started buying them up left and right. These are all different series. We've got Hollywood, just to show you a couple of them. Boney Tony. Furry Murray. Let's see, where's a good one? Amazing Grace. Gil Grill. I mean, there's just so many of these things, and they're so awesome. Someday I just want to make a big poster out of them hanging on the wall. Okay, now continuing with toys. Now you might notice a little different setup here. Maybe the camera moved a little bit. It's because my phone died, so I had to recharge it. Along the same lines of toys, I just want to show you this because I brought it up in another one of my vlogs when we were hiking one day, and it made me think of this. Tommy's Camping Adventure Golden Book. Now, this book was actually from 1971, but my mom used to read it to me all the time. My dad read it to me all the time. And remember, I was born in 1975. So by the time my parents were reading this, I was at least 5 years old, which brings us into the 80s. Tommy's Camping Adventure. Next thing you're probably going to laugh at me about, but I always wanted one. Grumpy Bear. You remember the Care Bears? I always wanted Grumpy. My parents could never find him because he was so popular. And I remember one year I got this little Grumpy that was made out of like, it was just fabric and it had the Grumpy printed on it. And it was stuffed with like that white fiber fill or whatever you call it. I got that for Christmas one year because nobody could find a real Grumpy. Well, later on, years later, my brother actually found this at a yard sale and grabbed it for me. So, no, I like women. Another toy that I had in the 80s when I was a kid, I got for Christmas one year. Baboon Ball. I actually went on and bought this from eBay. Just one of those that I remember distinctly opening on Christmas morning and being so excited. There's even a picture of me somewhere opening this Baboon Ball. But this is what it is. Baboon Ball, and you just, you run the guys around and hit the ball. I'm not going to take it out and play it on here, because there's nobody else here for me to play with. But it's just a cool little toy that I had when I was a kid. Now, I don't have any G.I. Joes, Transformers, or GoBots, believe it or not. I can't even believe I don't have any of those. Every time I get them, I sell them. I just can't help myself. But what I do have is the Air Jammer Cycle Scrammer by Tomy. You remember this thing? It's, I'm going to take it out of the box to show you here. And there it is. How awesome is that? Basically, you take the pump, you put the pump down there, and then you pump it up full of air, and that's what makes it run. That was rad. I'm going to have to go play with this thing on the hardwood floor in a minute, and you guys are coming with me. Another toy I do have was kind of a toss-up, whether it was mine or my brother's. My brother claims it was his. It even has a little Transformers hologram sticker on it, but it's not a Transformer. It's the Flex 7. Basically, you put the batteries in, you take it outside, set it down, push it forward or back, and as it hits something that it needs to crawl up on, this is what the wheels look when they start out. They're just regular round wheels. But then as they, there you go, they puff up so they can kind of grab stuff and crawl up on it. Okay guys, very last one I'm going to show you out of the toys. And this is like, this is an awesome toy. And I'm going to open it. This is sealed from 1980. It's original. And I'm going to open it just because I'm cool like that and I got you guys watching. Original Rubiks Cube. There you go. Ideal Toy Corporation, 1980, if you can see that. And, I mean, I could never figure out the Rubiks Cube, but other people did, and there's people who solve it in, like, seconds. But I've had this for a long time, and I've always wanted to play with it. And so, let's open it. Maybe I'm crazy, but let's do it. It's open! I don't want to destroy the packaging. Ah. Look at that. Fresh Rubiks Cube. Brand new out of the pack. Doesn't have any smell, surprisingly. You know, usually when you buy things brand new, they have a smell. I'm just surprised. Well, that sort of has a I've been in the attic for 30 years smell to it. But it's not real strong. Not what I would expect. So, yeah, let's mess this thing up. I just probably screwed it up forever. Here we go. There it is. Brand new 1980 Rubiks Cube just out of the package. And I screwed it up. I'm not even going to try to put it back together. I'll just do it like one of these nights when I got some time when I'm just sitting around. The last two things I want to show you just for the heck of it, they're not necessarily toys, well, one of them kind of is. Gremlins Gizmo Puzzle. I'm not even kidding, I probably have... I have 6 copies of Gremlins on DVD. I don't know why, I just love the movie, so I buy it every time I see it. And the very last thing I'm going to show you from the 80s, but when I grew up in the 80s in Andover, Ohio, we always used to get the best pizza I have ever had in my entire life. Covered Bridge Pizza. Yes, this is an original Covered Bridge Pizza box. It's not from the 80s, it's from the last time I went there. It even has pizza grease. We always got sausage, mushroom, and pepperoni when we went there. And oh my god, it is the best pizza I've ever had in my entire life. So yes, when I go and do my my vlog in Andover, you guys are coming with me, and we are going to get some of that pizza. I gotta be tactful about that, though, because obviously I'm trying to lose weight, so I can't just run down there and eat a bunch of pizza. But when I do, you guys are coming with me, and I'll tell you some awesome stories about Andover. So let's go play with this Air Jammer Cycle Scrammer. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this vlog. It's almost over, but if you're enjoying it, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, subscribe if you have not yet. And let's go have some fun. I want to see this thing fly across the floor. Okay, I'm taking this off first. That thing is hot. Plug it in. This thing's just so cool. Well, I guess that's it for the Air Jammer Cycle Scrammer. It was fun, but I don't know. It's just not holding much air, so it's not like flying around the way I thought it would. Plus, it's just kind of sliding around on this hardwood floor. Oh well, that was fun anyway. Peace.